Hey everyone, let's learn how to make a simple manga edit on Premiere Pro. I'm going to be going through things such as masking, so for example putting text under characters. I'm going to show you how to make smooth shakes, zoom transitions, so zoom ins and zoom out, and also some other stuff like keyframing using position. Okay, so first of all, head over to File, New Sequence. We're going to create a new sequence and just pick any preset. It doesn't really matter because we're going to change these settings. I'm just going to name it main and head over to sequence settings at the top. Change the editing mode to custom. For the time base, anything under 30 works really well. If it's above 30, it probably won't look good. So I'm going to go 30 and change the frame size to 1080 by 1080. Some people go for 1080 by 1440, which looks like this, or maybe even 1440 by 1080. Which is a bit wider horizontally, but I am, for the sake of this tutorial, going to go for 1080 by 1080, which is a square aspect ratio. All right, now it's time to import my audio. So this is what I'm going to be using. Take a listen.
Looks like it's gonna be a great day today to get some fresh air like a stray on a straightaway. And
I'm actually going to make a cut just here. So mine is going to be 5 seconds long. I'm just making a very quick edit to show you as an example. So gather your images. So as you can see, I've got a few here. So just import them into your project tab. So you can have just import the whole folder. I've already got a Vagabond panels folder, but I'm just gonna grab all of these and import them by dragging and dropping. So let's place some markers onto our audio just so we know where the main points are. So if I just play it,
looks like it's gonna be a great, looks like it's gonna,
I think somewhere here, I'm just going to press M. If your audio has been highlighted, it will place it directly onto it. As you can see, it's right down there. But if it's not highlighted, it will place it on the timeline directly. I like to have it directly on my audio, so I'm just going to keep it at that. Anyway, so as you can see, I placed my first marker here. So that is where it will transition onto the next image. These markers are there to just help you as a guide. It's not final. So yeah, just go through it and place markers where you think is appropriate. Okay, let's start with the first image. So I'm going to place mine here and extend it all the way to the end until it hits the next marker. I'm also going to scale it up. So head over to Effects Controls and turn up the scale until you're happy with it. That should be okay. For this first image, I'm going to mask out my character and place text at the back, and also add a zoom in at the start. If you go onto this image, which is called I Love IMG, they do actually have a remove background tool. So if you don't want to mask an image, you could use this. It's not fully accurate, but if I just select the image that I just imported, so this one here, hopefully it removes the background. I don't know if it'll work. There you go, it's perfect. And I think this just saves so much time because, you know, it's free to use and it's quick. However, I'm going to show you how to mask anyway in case it doesn't work. So you want to duplicate your layer, so hold Alt on your keyboard and click and drag it up. Then on the duplicated layer, head over to opacity and select the mask tool, which is just here. It's like a pen, and you basically want to use this here, which is the zoom level. And let me just turn it up all the way to 400. What you want to do is just go around starting from one corner. So let's say here, and then just keep on making points around the character. I think that this is very time consuming, but it's also a very important skill, and it works best with anime clips, not really manga. Ideally, you would want to use something like Photoshop for this kind of stuff. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to quickly rush this just to show you how it looks like. Okay, that's done. It probably looks terrible. So if I just hide the bottom layer, you can see it's a very, very quick mask, but that took longer and it was a bit tricky getting to like parts up here. For example, do you see how there's still some background left just here? And basically the reason why we have two layers, so the top one doesn't have a background, it's fully transparent, but the bottom one is the original, which is this one here, is because we want to sandwich some text between these two layers. So for example, don't do this. I'm just going to use it as an example to show you. So if I just put your text and then just unhide this layer because it was hidden, and then just like maybe scale it up, you can see the text is actually behind my character, and it's going to look so much better if I use a website like this, which does it for me. So yeah, I'm just going to download this image and I'm going to import this PNG, get rid of this one because that was just an example, place this on top. Might need to rescale it. In fact, let me just copy the settings using the original image. So the bottom layer, right click motion just here, copy, paste it onto the new layer, So Control V, and take a look at that. Look at how clean it looks. It's a perfect cut. Anyways, let me show you how to actually make text. So if I just delete that layer that I just made, so what you want to do is press T on your keyboard or select the type tool, which is just down here, and then select anywhere on your video. It doesn't matter because we're going to make some changes anyway. Just press and then add your text. So I'm going to put looks and then press enter, like, because those are the lyrics of my video. If you head into effect controls and then open up the text layer, which is just down here, you can change the color. So for example, I could go black. If the color won't change, then just select the selection tool, then it should work. There you go. I'm also going to maybe change the font. Actually, I'm going to use the font that I just used because I think it looks pretty good. We can make it a bit thicker by clicking on this button here. I'm also going to close the gap between them. So you can use this setting just here, and I'm going to put it to the left to bring them closer. There you go. And then I'm going to drag the points just here, or you can scroll down and use the scale to help you. Scale, position, and rotation. Don't use the one at the very top, which is for vector motion, or the one at the very bottom, which is not for the video, but basically for the entire text layer. So this can actually destroy the quality if you use it. So don't use that. Use the one above it, which is near the appearance. So yeah, I'm just gonna make it bigger and then push it down. Also, I'm gonna just sandwich it in between my two layers and extend it. What I'm going to quickly do is kind of like align it to the right side. So if I just select this option here, right align text, that's going to move it to the other side instead of the left, like that. I think that looks pretty awesome. So if you take a look at that, looks pretty cool. Make sure that your playhead is at the very start. What I'm going to do is I'm going to animate this text. So keyframe the position and then head all the way to the end and push this first value to the left. So just like that, leave it there. And then I'm going to open up the graph. It's just this tiny handle next to the stopwatch, and select the last keyframe and grab this handle and pull it all the way to the left, then let go. So this is how it should look, which looks awesome. Also, I think it just helps if you push this keyframe all the way to the end like that. Let's also maybe add some text at the top here, you know, just so it fills in this gap. So what I'm going to do is just push this top layer up for the manga panel, and I'm going to duplicate the text layer. So hold Alt on your keyboard and click and drag it all the way up. Scroll down to the keyframes, and if you just head to the start, in fact, what you can do is just get rid of all of these keyframes. So if you just click on the stopwatch, this will come up, click OK, and just reposition it. In fact, I am going to move the alignment again, so left side instead. Now I can't see it, so I'm just going to use the position and scale to find it because I have no idea where it is. Oh, there it is. Perfect. It can be a bit annoying to deal with, but I'm just gonna align it there. Set a keyframe at the start. Actually, I'm gonna push it all the way to the left, maybe like here to the end, and then push it to the right, and then open up the graph, tiny arrow, pull this all the way to the left, push this back, and let's take a look. Looks really awesome so far. Let's now add a zoom in at the start. So if you head over to your product tab, right click here, new item, adjustment layer, and click OK. Place the adjustment layer on top of your clips, just like that, and extend it all the way to the end. Then what you're going to do is head over to effects and then search for transform, which is underneath distort just here. So drag that onto the adjustment layer. Keyframe the scale, making sure that your playhead is at the very start. So hit the stopwatch, then head to the end and set this to maybe 110 to 115, depending on what looks best for your clip. Then graph this. So open up the graph, and then you want to select the second keyframe, grab this handle just here, the point at the end, pull it all the way to the left. Make sure it's on level, so not too high or too low, just like that. So it touches the bar next to it. So it should look very smooth. If it looks like this, then it's not going to look good. And as you can see, it kind of dips. And also if it's too high, it's going to look like that. So make sure it looks smooth. Now, if we play it back, I think we could add some motion blur to it. So if I just uncheck this box here, use composition's shutter angle, and then turn up the shutter angle all the way to 360, you can see we've now got some motion blur around the edges. Let's now add on one more transform effect onto the adjustment layer. But what I'm going to do is first of all collapse this one by clicking on the arrow next to the FX button. So just like that. So add on transform one more time to the adjustment layer. And this time what we're going to do is make it zoom in again towards the end. So ideally what you want to do is head to the middle of your clip, or should I say adjustment layer, and then you want to set a stopwatch for the scale, then head to the end and change this to maybe 115 or all the way up to 125 or even more. It depends on what you prefer. Let's test it with 115 for now. We can always change it if we need to. So I'm going to open up the graph and we're going to do it the other way around. So grab the first keyframes handle, this one here, pull it all the way to the left. Make sure it's not too high or too low, just like before. So just here, right there, and let go. So if you play it back, it's going to look like this. Once again, what you can do is uncheck the box down here and crank up the shutter angle all the way to max. Now you'll notice that the motion blur kind of disappears for the final frame. So what you can do is just push this back like so. And this is what it looks like so far. Awesome stuff. Okay, let's now I think we'll move on to some shakes. So if I add on this next image and maybe extend it to around here, just like before, scale it up. By the way, if your images look really bad quality, I don't know if I mentioned this, you can use that exact same website to upscale it. They do have a tool to upscale your images. It works perfectly. It's right there. Anyways, once again, I'm going to add an adjustment layer on top and extend it. Then I'm going to add the transform effect onto the adjustment layer, head back into effect controls. And what we're going to do is keyframe the scale to about 125 at the start. Head all the way to the end of your adjustment layer and reset this back to 100 and graph it just like before. So open it up and then pull this handle all the way to the left. Make sure it's on level and let go. Also, what I do recommend doing is tightening this graph up for the start bit. So this handle here, just push it to the left until it looks like a spike. This makes the scale a bit quicker than before. So before it looked like this, a little too slow in my opinion, but now it's a bit faster. Now here's the tricky part. So just uncheck this box, turn up the shutter angle to about, let's go 360 for now, which is the max. Basically, we're going to create some sort of twitch shake. So we're going to be keyframing the position to use this. So if I just hit the stopwatch and I'm going to drag it slightly to the left and then maybe up as well. Then I'm going to head, let's go 1-2 frames ahead and then repeat the same with another corner. So maybe like, if I just reset, maybe like the bottom right, then 1-2. In fact, you know what? Let's just do one at a time. So maybe one frame. So you've got the first one here and then the second one, which is this one more frame ahead. Let me just reset, maybe like down here and a bit to the left, something like that. Do you see how it's looking now? We have like a very delicate shake kind of. So yeah, so far 3 keyframes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to reset it and then push it up slightly. And then one more frame ahead and then reset it back to its original value and leave it at that. Let's see how it looks. So first one, second one. Yep, that looks pretty good. You can really feel the shake. If there's too much motion blur, just change the shutter angle to something lower. So I'm going to go 270. I think that might look a little bit better. Yep, perfect. Once again, I'm going to collapse this like so, and I'm going to search for Lumetri color, which is underneath color correction. Add this onto your adjustment layer. Head back into effect controls, scroll down until you see basic correction. So open it up. And what we're going to do, did I say this already? We are going to make a flash effect. So what you want to do is keyframe the exposure just here. Click on the stopwatch. Set this to anywhere from 3 to 4. I'm going to try 4. Might be a bit too bright, but it's fine. Then head about 1, 2. In fact, you can hold shift on your keyboard and then use the arrow key, so left or right, to go forwards or backwards 5 frames. So if I click the right arrow key whilst holding shift, that will let me go 5 frames ahead. So if I just head back to the start, what we can do is head 5, 10, let's go 15 frames ahead and then reset this back to 0. So now we've got 2 keyframes. And if you want to, you can graph it just like before, but I think it's best if we just right click and then select ease in for the second keyframe. So let's see how that looks. If I just play it back, not bad at all. Oh, and by the way, this is how it sounds like with audio. I did have it on mute, so take a listen. There are also some not beat drops, but you can hear them in the background, so just take a listen. They are right here. So there's one here, so I'm just going to place a marker there, and then there's also one, I think, somewhere here. So if I just press M, and what I'm going to do, because this clip is so long, I'm going to add like manga panels. So the images that I just imported. So one at the top, maybe like sliding in, so animated, and then also one at the bottom, as I said, sliding in from the other side. I'm going to place my image, so this one here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this the bottom image. So if I just scale it up, you can see that it won't really fit. So what we need to do is crop it by using the crop effect. So search for crop, add this onto your image directly, and yeah, basically crop it. So I'm going to use bottom and just turn it up, and then the top as well, just to hide the top bit. Something like this might look quite interesting, but I think it might look better for the top because the background contrasts with the white background on the image behind it. But like here, you can see the clothes are also dark, so it doesn't look as good. So that's going to be the top image. And then the second one will be, which one have I not used? This one looks kind of cool. It's got like a quote on here, so I might use that one. I'm going to extend it, then add on the crop effect, head back into effect controls, and then crop it. So something like maybe here, scale it up just to match the top image as well. So something like this. And if you want your images to stand out, what you can do is search for another effect called drop shadow. I don't really use this much, I think. So you can add this onto both images. Let me just add it to the top one for now. So this one, you can see that it's actually already added a drop shadow to make it pop out more. So before and then after. So what we're going to do is actually enhance this further. If you just scroll down in the effect controls panel, turn up the opacity maybe to like 80%, and then increase the distance to maybe 10 to just push it back a little bit more. In fact, I am going to increase the opacity to maybe like 90 and then decrease the distance to 8. So you've got a before and then after. You can see it stands out much more. So yeah, what we can do now is just copy this. So either right click, copy, or just Control C. So I'm just going to copy and then paste it onto my other image. So right click anywhere here and paste. There you go. Might need to make some adjustments. You can see this one looks slightly different to this one. So I might have to decrease the distance to maybe 6. That looks really good. Actually, I think it looks a bit weird. So I am going to maybe increase the opacity to 95, maybe decrease the distance to 4. And let's actually try increasing the softness. How does that look? Not bad. It kind of looks like it's floating now though. Maybe something like 8 is fine. You can still see the drop shadow, but it's very soft. So I might do the same for the other one. 8 softness. That looks fine. Okay, so you can either leave it as it is or keyframe it to animate it. So let me just cut this and then show you how it looks so far. Actually, I was meant to flip them. This was meant to come first and then this second one. But yeah, you can leave it as it is, or you can follow my steps to animate it. So what I'm going to do is use the motion at the top here, which is for this image that I just added. So what we're going to do is make it slide in. So just keyframe the position. So I've just clicked the stopwatch and that's placed a keyframe here. And I'm going to slide it all the way to the left to hide it. Then I'm going to head to the end and push it to the middle. So somewhere around here. If I reset it, how would that look? Okay, that places it at the very middle. So I could use that to just center it and then push it up somewhere maybe like, oh wait, no, sorry. This second value here needs to match the value for the first keyframe. So if I used 241 for the first keyframe, then this one here also needs to be 241 like that. Otherwise it's going to keyframe and like move down. You can see it looks really funny. So yeah, make sure that's the same. And I'm going to graph it. So open up the graphs, pull this all the way to the left and push this back as well. If you want to tighten the graph, you can do. So I'm just going to push it back a bit for the first keyframe. Then I'm going to do the same for the second image, which is at the bottom. So keyframe, hide it. So other side, head to the end and then push it to the middle somewhere around here. Open up the graph, push to the right like that, push it back and then tighten this at the start and take a look.
Looks like it's gonna be a great day. Looks like it's gonna be a great. Looks like it's gonna be a.
So far it looks really, really good. Now if you think that it looks too choppy, what you can do instead of using motion, which is built in directly into images, is use transform just like before. I'm not a very huge fan of it. For some reason it breaks my images. I don't know why, but that's why I try and avoid using transform, even though the biggest benefit is motion blur. So just like before, you can use transform instead to make your keyframes. So just like we did with the other images on the adjustment layer, and then use position to keyframe it. But I've just used position, sorry, the motion that's built in. Okay, I'm going to finish it off by adding a zoom out. So what I'm going to do is add an adjustment layer on top of all of these, make it zoom in and then zoom out onto this panel. Previously, I scaled all my images in, but this time I'm not going to do it. I think it's going to look pretty cool with these black bars. So let me first of all add on the adjustment layer on top of these images. So maybe about 5-10 frames long from this point on. And I'm going to add on transform just like that. And at the start, I'm going to keyframe the scale. And I think that's it, just the scale for now. Head to the end and set this to 115. Actually, 110 should be okay. So 110, and then graph this to the right side. I can actually use my playhead, so this thing, to help me graph it, because right now I can't see the bar next to it, like here on the other side. So we can actually use the velocity number here to help us. So if I put it all the way to the right, just to make sure it's close as it can be to 0. Make sure it's not something like -2. So there you go, 0, perfect. I'm going to tighten this a bit more on the other side and then push this back. Then I'm gonna uncheck this, increase it all the way to 360. Now it slowly zooms in. Then I'm gonna make it zoom out from the character's head. So if I add on adjustment layer one more time and extend it, then add on transform, effect controls, keyframe the scale and the position, turn it up and then push it up. So something like this should be okay. Head to the end and then reset all my values. Open up the graph for position and graph this to the left. Same goes for the scale. So open it up to the left, something like that, and then push these back. Okay, so I'm not really happy with how it looks so far. It's not really looking as smooth as it should. I've turned up the motion blur and everything, but it's not looking good. So what I'm going to do is actually search for my preset pack. It's in the description below. It has over 24 presets and I've never actually used it for manga edits. So let's try and use maybe like Twitch Shake 2. So if I add that onto my adjustment layer, I'm hoping this looks good. Let's play it back. I mean, it looks fine. Needs to be a bit smoother. See, these shakes are good for normal edits, but manga edits, it needs something a bit smoother. So smooth X shake. Let's see how that looks. Okay, not bad. I like the blur at the start, but maybe it's got to do something with the keyframes. So if I head back into the transform settings, let's maybe push these back, these keyframes. Let's tighten them for both scale and the position. So I'm gonna head to the start and move my playhead 1 frame ahead just to use it as a guide. So what I'm gonna do is pull this handle for the position back until it's like touching it. So just there. Same goes for the scale, push it back. So somewhere like here. Okay, let's see how it now looks. Slightly better than before, but I still think it doesn't look that good. I'm not going to keep the black bars. I'm actually going to scale it back in at the end. So something like that and then push it up. So that should be okay, I think. Let's hope. Yeah, definitely much better than before. Okay, I accidentally stopped recording, but basically what I've done is I've added a flicker overlay just to finish it off, but I am happy with the result. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break all of this down, so everything that I've shown in this video in more detail as separate tutorials, so masking, shakes, zooms and any other stuff like keyframing. But for now, if you would like to buy this project file, it is available in the description below. If you are one of my monthly supporters, then you get it for completely free. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Peace.